Good morning, this is Penny Ferguson, a living leader. First of all, apologies for not being with you last Wednesday. I did warn you it might be difficult, and sure enough, it would have been quite difficult doing it from a hotel bedroom in Romania. So forgive me, but I'm back here now. So what about Romania last week? Well, that was fantastic. As you know, as I think I shared with you, I actually go there to the dentist, would you believe? It's to be honest, it's a fraction of the price, and the quality of dentistry is utterly amazing. So for me, it's a no-brainer. And the reason I do that is I was introduced to it by my amazing housekeeper, who you've all heard me talk about, Adrian, who is Romanian. And he takes me there. The service is incredible. He looks after me so well. And this time I went with a colleague and one of our trainers as well, who needed, I have to say, rather more work than I did. So, but it was interesting. But really more importantly, one of the reasons I really wanted to go was it was Adrian's, Claudia's daughter, Julia. It was her 18th birthday. And it's really fascinating because the culture there is very, very different. And the style of how they have a party is very different. It was really a wonderful experience, and beginning to look at the different cultures and the way that people do things differently is absolutely fascinating. And I enjoyed every minute of it. People are so welcoming. And the thing that it made me think about is there's a very good client that we've worked with for years and years, every company goes to. And he hates the word diversity. He doesn't like it at all. He'd rather have the word inclusion. And I think that's interesting because, yes, for me, when I hear the word diverse, I think of different things. Inclusion, I think of bringing people in. And I think that is rather different. And when I think of the way they behaved towards me and the way they included me and Christine in absolutely everything, they want to include us in the conversations, making huge efforts to speak really good English. They wanted to include us in the dancing. They wanted to include us in the food. They wanted to include us in the photography. They wanted to include us in everything. And it was a wonderful experience. And Julia, if you watch this, I want to say thank you very much for inviting me to your very special party. And I felt, as did Christine, hugely included, very valued. And I think it's worth thinking about that in the workplace. Think about it when you're with your teams and when you have people who think very differently from us. I know one of the things that we can be inclined to do is when somebody thinks very differently from us, we want to do our best to persuade them to think the same way that we do, because we think that's probably the right way, or the best way, or whatever. And yet opening our minds to new cultures, to new way of thinking, is part of a journey of really learning and leading. And to me, that's amazing. And I just wanted to share with you how I'd like you to ask yourself, how do you want to think about it? Do you want to think about diversity, or do you want to think about inclusion? And if you really think about inclusion, if you knew that there's more things you could do with your maybe global team to help them feel more included, what might you do differently? What might you do more of? What might you be aware of and stop doing? So if you really think about inclusion, if you think about your children's friends, if you think about your colleagues, if you think about all sorts of people around you who maybe have different experiences, different ways of thinking to you, what might you be able to do to include them? So I had a wonderful week last week, and I apologise for not being here. And we are getting closer and closer to the webinar that we do on the last Thursday of the month. And interestingly enough, the person that I'm going to be talking to is Chris Weston, who I've worked with a lot over the years. And he's the person who actually does not like the word diversity. He prefers the word inclusion. And he is one of the best leaders that I know. So I really hope that you're able to join me on that. And I'd just like to say good morning, cats. How lovely to see you all the way from New Zealand. I don't know what time it is there, but pretty darn late, I would imagine. So thank you for joining. So I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again next week. This is Penny Ferguson, a living leader.